My dad tried to get me fired from my job because I refused to help pay for my brother's wedding. So I did the one thing he never, ever thought I'd have the guts to do. I lit a match to the only thing he truly worshipped, his reputation. I'm 29. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a dental hygienist, and I'm a single mom to a 5-year-old tornado of curly hair and sticky fingers named Lucas. If you saw us at the park, you'd probably think, cute little family. What you wouldn't see is the years of being the responsible daughter, the invisible one, the one who got the scraps, while my siblings, Tyler and Bethany, got the full course meal, literally and metaphorically. When this all started, it was a Tuesday morning, and I was at work, in my scrubs, mask hanging around my neck, the smell of mint polish and disinfectant in the air. It was one of those chaotic days where every patient shows up 5 minutes late, but still wants to chat about their entire medical history and their dog. My office manager popped her head into my room right after I'd finished with a patient. "Hey, Marissa," she said, too casually. "Can you come to my office for a minute? Bring your stuff?" You know that cold wash feeling? Like someone pours ice water down your spine? Yeah, that. I peeled off my gloves, washed my hands, tried to ignore the pounding in my chest. "Am I in trouble?" I half joked. She didn't laugh. "Let's just talk." So I followed her down the hallway. I could smell the coffee from the break room, hear the suction whine from another op. Normal sounds. But everything felt tilted. In her office, our dentist, Dr. Patel, was already sitting at the little round table, his lips pressed into the sympathetic line. My stomach dropped. "Close the door, please," my manager said. I did, and suddenly it was just us and the little ticking wall clock and my own heartbeat slamming in my ears. "Marissa," Dr. Patel started, "you are one of our best hygienists. Our patients love you, so I want you to hear that first." Ouch. Whenever someone starts with a compliment like that, it's bad. My manager slid a piece of paper across the table. "We received an anonymous complaint about you yesterday." "About me?" My voice came out small. What kind of complaint?" She glanced at Dr. Patel, then back at me. "The caller said you were," she checked the paper, "stealing prescription samples and nitrous, that you've been unstable since having your son, and that you sometimes come to work impaired." My whole body went hot, then cold. What? That's insane. I don't even have access to the prescription samples without a doctor. And I don't touch nitrous without a chart order. You know that. You see my numbers. "I know," Dr. Patel said calmly. "That's why we're talking, not firing. But we do have to investigate. It's policy." "And the caller?" I croaked. "They were anonymous. They refused to give a last name, but they did say, 'I'm Lucas's grandfather. I'm just worried about my grandson's safety.'" It was like someone punched me in the chest. Lucas's grandfather. My dad, of course. I felt my throat close up. Did you record the call?" "All inbound calls to the main line are logged," she said carefully. "HR has it in your file. We listened to it already." Honestly, Marissa, it sounded more like a family dispute than a genuine concern. But it exists, so we had to document this meeting. I swallowed hard, blinking fast. "So, what happens now?" "Nothing formal," Dr. Patel said. "We're not suspending you. You're still on the schedule. We're just making a note that the complaint was made, and that based on our knowledge of your performance and behavior, it's unsubstantiated. We're also going to flag any further calls from that number. If this continues, we'll treat it as harassment. Harassment. From my own father. Do you need anything? My manager asked softly. A break? To call someone? I shook my head. No, thank you for telling me. I'm okay. I wasn't okay. Not even a little. But I smiled because that's what I do. I went back to my room, put my mask on, and cleaned teeth like my entire world hadn't just tilted sideways. And while I was scraping tartar off a sweet older woman's molars, I kept thinking, all of this, because I wouldn't give my dad money. Rewind 2 weeks. It was Lucas's 5th birthday. He'd been counting down for a month, crossing off little boxes on a calendar we'd drawn together. Every morning, Mama, is it 5 more sleeps? 4 more sleeps. You know how kids are. Time is this weird stretchy thing for them. I'd saved up for weeks. I'm not poor, but I'm not dropped thousands without blinking rich either. Milwaukee rent, preschool, groceries, all of that adds up. Still, I wanted him to have a magical day. I booked a small indoor trampoline park because Wisconsin, in early spring, is a weather gamble. I ordered this ridiculous dinosaur cake that had fondant trees and lava. I made goodie bags with little plastic dinos and goldfish crackers. I stayed up past midnight, blowing up balloons until my cheeks hurt, and because I am apparently incapable of learning quickly, I invited my family. My parents, my brother Tyler, my younger sister Bethany. I sent out texts 3 weeks before, then a week before, then the day before. Me. Hey, reminder Lucas's party is tomorrow at 2. He's so excited to see you guys. Mom, we'll be there. Dad, we'll make it work. Tell him Grandpa is bringing a surprise. Got a game in the morning, but should be able to swing by after. Bethany. OMG, yes. Can't wait. I found the cutest little outfit for him. So I believed them, because they're my family. Because some tiny, stubborn part of me still wanted to believe that this time would be different. Day of the party. The trampoline place smelled like socks and nacho cheese. Very on brand. Little kids were screaming happily. They had this neon carpet that gave me a headache if I looked at it too long. My friend Destiny showed up early, as always, carrying 2 big soda bottles and her loud laugh. Okay, where do you want me? She asked, already tying balloons to chairs. Anywhere that isn't on fire is fine, I joked, but my hands were a little shaky. I kept checking the door. Lucas was in his new T-Rex shirt, curls bouncing, cheeks flushed with excitement. Mama, is Grandpa here yet? Is Grandma here yet? Is Uncle Tyler bringing his special glove? He idolizes Tyler, by the way. Because of course he does. Tyler throws him high in the air and lets him hold the football like a big kid. They'll be here, baby, I said. Why don't you go jump with your friends? He nodded and took off on his tiny, lightning-fast legs, joining the chaos of kids launching themselves on trampolines. 2 p.m., the other kids arrived. My coworkers with their kids, Destiny's boyfriend, Miss Katie, his preschool teacher, even showed up with a little gift and a big hug. 2:15 p.m. I checked my phone. Nothing. 2:30 p.m. Me. Hey, everything okay? We've started. Mom, on our way. Dad had to finish something. Lie. I could tell. My mom texts like that when she's covering. 2:45 p.m. Lucas ran up to me, sweaty and out of breath. Mama, did they come yet? Not yet, honey, I said lightly, even as my stomach twisted. Keep playing, okay? You only turn 5 once. He frowned. glanced at the door, then ran back. 3:10 p.m. Still nothing. Cake time was coming up. Miss Katie caught my eye with that sympathetic expression teachers get when they know a kid's about to be hurt by something they can't control. Maybe we should. Go ahead, she whispered. Yeah, I said, throat tight. Yeah, we should. We gathered the kids around. The cake smelled like vanilla and sugar and nostalgia. I lit the candles, my hands actually trembling a little. Lucas took a deep breath, looking over my shoulder at the door. Even at 5, he was still hoping. And then he blew out his candles without a single grandparent, aunt, or uncle in sight. I smiled for the pictures. I led the singing. I handed out plates. I laughed when one of the kids got frosting on Lucas's nose, and he pretended to be a frosting dinosaur. But every time I turned toward the entrance, there was this little ache. This stupid, persistent ache. By the time we got home, we were both exhausted. Lucas crashed hard that night. Sugar crash and trampoline crash combined. I was gathering torn wrapping paper when he wandered back into the living room in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Mama? He asked quietly. Yeah, buddy. Did Grandpa forget my birthday? My heart actually physically hurt. I don't know, baby. Did I do something bad? His lip wobbled. Maybe that's why they didn't come. And that, right there, that was the moment something inside me cracked. I pulled him into my lap, smelling his shampoo, feeling his warm little body. No, Lucas. No. You did nothing wrong. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me. Sometimes, grown-ups make bad choices. That's on them, not you. Okay? He whispered, but he didn't sound convinced. After I tucked him in, I sat on my couch in the glow of the TV I wasn't really watching, and I scrolled. Because I knew in my gut what I was about to see. Sure enough, there it was. My brother's Instagram story. Him at some bar with his buddies, beer in hand, captioned, Boys' Night, finally, off duty. Bethany's Snapchat. A mirror selfie in a sparkly outfit at what looked like some pop-up art event. Last-minute tickets. Yes. My parents' Facebook check-in. Having a wonderful afternoon at the craft fair and farmer's market. #blessed #retired life. Picture of them smiling with some kettle corn. No emergency. No car breakdown. No sudden illness. They just didn't come. And then, 72 hours later, my dad called a family meeting at their house. Classic. You coming? Destiny asked, when I told her on my lunch break. I feel like I have to, I sighed. If I don't, it'll be, look how ungrateful Marissa is. She won't even listen. You know you don't actually owe them that, right? She said, eyebrow raised. Destiny has this way of cutting through my nonsense. But if you go, record everything in your brain. Evidence. Receipts. So Wednesday night, after Lucas was with his sitter, I drove over to my parents' place. Same beige split-level house I grew up in. Same overwatered lawn. Same cracked driveway. You know how some houses smell like childhood? This one smelled like lemon cleaner and resentment. Tyler's truck was already there. Bethany's little sedan, too. I walked in without knocking, because that's the expectation. My mom was at the kitchen island, slicing cheese like she was hosting book club instead of an ambush. Oh, good, you're here, she said, kissing my cheek. Her lipstick smelled like the same rose scent she's worn since I was 10. Your dad's just finishing something in the garage. Tyler was on the couch, scrolling his phone, feet on the coffee table. Hey, he said, without looking up. Bethany hugged me, all perfume and jangly bracelets. You look tired. I work full-time and solo parent a 5-year-old, I said. So? Yeah. We did the small talk dance for 10 minutes until my dad walked in. Gary. Tall, gray at the temples now, wearing his I'm in charge face. Okay, he said, clapping his hands together. Let's get started. Started what exactly? A PowerPoint presentation on how disappointing I am? We all sat in the living room. Dad took his usual recliner. Mom perched on the edge of the love seat, like she might fly away. So, Dad began, we've all had a few days to reflect on how things went this weekend. I waited. Surely this was about Lucas's birthday. Surely someone was going to say, we messed up. We're really sorry we couldn't be there for Lucas's party. My mom started, but Dad cut her off. We told you that craft fair was the only weekend they were in town, Marissa. That was news to me. You told me you were coming, I said slowly, multiple times. You said you'd make it work. The craft fair isn't an emergency, Dad. He frowned, like I'd said something absurd. We're retired. We finally have time for ourselves. We can't plan our entire lives around a children's party. Children's party. Right. And Tyler had commitments, he added. Tyler shrugged. The guys wanted to celebrate. We'd just won our rec league game. Bethany flipped her hair. And I only found out about those tickets the night before. It was this influencer thing. Couldn't pass it up. So, all of you made other plans, I said. My voice was flatter than I felt. Nobody thought to text, to call, to say, hey, I know you spent money and time and told your 5-year-old we'd be there, but we're not coming. My mom's eyes went a little glassy. You're being very harsh right now, honey. The rage bubbled up a bit. Lucas asked me if he did something wrong. Do you understand that? He thinks his grandparents didn't come because he was bad. He's a child, Dad scoffed. He'll get over it. Anyway, that's not why we called you here. Oh, of course it wasn't. Dad cleared his throat, his serious business tone activating. As you know, Tyler and Megan got engaged, the one I'd met twice. We're very proud of him, my mom added with a watery smile. He's the first to get married. I bit back the urge to say, I literally had a child, but okay, Dad continued. They've booked a beautiful barn venue for September. It's pricey, but you only get married once. Your mother and I are covering a large portion, but we can't do it all. Here it comes. So, he said, steepling his fingers like some low-rent CEO, we've decided that, as a family, we're each going to contribute to the wedding fund. It will make the day even more special, knowing everyone had a hand in it. Decided. Meaning, he decided. I folded my arms. What does contribute mean, exactly? Mom slid a little folder toward me, like they'd prepared handouts. Inside was a printed budget, venue, catering, photographer, flowers. The total at the bottom made my eyes widen. They'd circled one number in red. $6,000. For you, Dad said, $3,000 before the end of next month for the deposit, and $3,000 by July. Bethany will contribute $3,000 as well. Bethany nodded like this was no big deal. Tyler's already paying for the limo and bar tab. I laughed. Actually laughed. You think I have $6,000 lying around? You've been working full-time for years, Dad said, like that explained everything. You don't pay city rent. You live in that older place. You should have savings. I actually do have savings. For emergencies. For Lucas. Not for a Pinterest wedding. I have a kid, I reminded him. I have preschool tuition. I have a car payment, groceries, clothes. I am not dropping $6,000 on Tyler's party. Stop calling it a party, Tyler snapped. It's my wedding. And, I shot back, you chose to get married. Congratulations. That doesn't make me your ATM. Dad's jaw tightened. You're being very selfish, Marissa. Family supports family. I felt that old, familiar guilt clawing up my throat, the you're the difficult one feeling. I thought of 12-year-old me cooking dinner while my parents took Tyler to practice. Of 16-year-old me babysitting Bethany so they could go on date nights. Parentification, my therapist calls it, when the child becomes the adult. Family supports family, I repeated. Did family support me when I got pregnant with Lucas and his father bailed? When I was working 2 jobs and going to school at night? My mom frowned. We let you live here for a while. For 4 months, I said, and then you started charging me more rent than you charged Tyler when he crashed in the basement for 3 years. And you forgot his birthday? I added, voice quieter now. His 5th birthday. We said we were sorry, Mom whispered. Can't you just let that go? Dad slapped his palm against the armrest. Enough. This is about helping your brother. Tyler has always been there for you. That one almost made me choke. When? When has Tyler driven me to a hospital? Watched Lucas when he was sick? Loaned me money? Because I can list about 15 times I've done those things for him. Tyler rolled his eyes. Here we go with the martyr act. I looked at my dad. No, I'm not giving you $6,000. A smaller amount. Then, he snapped. No. 2, he pushed. Everyone else is doing their part. Are you really okay being the only one who doesn't care enough to show up for your own brother? There it was. The line. The hook he'd always used. Do you really want to be that person? And for the first time in my life, it didn't catch. I showed up for Lucas, I said. You didn't. So, if we're using that metric, maybe you should ask yourselves who really cares enough to show up. My mom's eyes filled with tears. You're twisting things. No, I said, standing up, folder still in my hand. I'm finally seeing them straight. Dad stood too. If you walk out of this house tonight without agreeing to help, don't expect us to bend over backwards for you anymore. Gary, my mom hissed, but he ignored her. I picked up my keys. When have you ever bent over backwards for me? I asked quietly. He didn't have an answer. That was the last time I was voluntarily in their house. Fast forward back to that Tuesday HR meeting. Back to the realization that my own father had picked up a phone, called my workplace, and tried to brand me a thief and an addict because I said no to $6,000. I held it together until lunch. Then I locked myself in the staff bathroom, sat on the closed toilet seat, and ugly cried into a wad of paper towels. My phone buzzed. Destiny, how's your day? She texted. Probably just checking in. I called her instead. The second I heard her voice, I started sobbing again. Hey, she said. What happened? Are you okay? Is Lucas okay? I hiccuped out the story. The complaint, the Lucas's grandfather line, the way my boss had looked at me with pity. There was a long pause when I finished. That son of a... She stopped herself and took a breath. Okay. Breathe. Listen to me. He messed with your job. That's next level. I could have been fired, I whispered. If Dr. Patel didn't know me, if I'd just started. I shook my head. He wants to hurt me. And he used Lucas to do it. Destiny. He brought Lucas into that story. I know, she said softly. I'm so sorry. But maybe this is it. This is what? Your line in the sand, she said. Your I'm done moment. Because if you keep letting him in after this, he'll just keep escalating. You know he will. I thought about 5-year-old Lucas in his dinosaur pajamas, asking if he'd been bad. About my dad telling me a craft fair mattered more than his grandson. About the red circled $6,000 in that stupid folder. And I thought about me, about the girl who'd spent her teenage years doing laundry and dishes while her siblings got rides to camps and concerts. About the woman who co-signed things, babysat for free, covered emergencies, all in the name of keeping the peace. Yeah, I said slowly. Yeah, I think you're right. After work, instead of driving straight home, I parked in the grocery store lot and sat with my phone. I pulled up my text thread with my dad. The last messages were from that family meeting night. Dad, I hope you rethink this. Don't throw your family away over money. Please don't bring it up again. Dad, you're making a mistake. You know what's wild? Even then, part of me had wanted to text him a compromise. To say, okay, I can do $500. To smooth it over. To be the good daughter. Now, that part was quiet. I opened a new text instead. Me. I know it was you who called my job. This is your only warning. Do not contact my employer, my coworkers, or anyone else in my life again. If you do, I will treat it as harassment. His response came fast. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I called because I was worried about Lucas. You've been unstable lately. They deserve to know. I actually laughed. Unstable. I typed, deleted, retyped. Finally sent. Me? Calling my work to spread lies about me isn't concern. It's cruelty. You chose this, not me. From this point on, you are not welcome in my life or Lucas's unless you take responsibility and apologize. Not a half apology, a real one. ... Dad, I'm your father. I don't owe you an apology for trying to protect my grandson. There it was, in black and white. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, I did something 12-year-old me, 20-year-old me, even last year me, would never have imagined. I blocked his number. Then, I blocked my mom, Bethany, and Tyler. Not forever, I told myself. Just, for now. Just until I could breathe without that constant buzz of anxiety. When I picked up Lucas from preschool, he barreled into my legs like always, chattering about how he got a sticker for super sharing. His little hand in mine on the way to the car felt like an anchor. Can we have dinosaur nuggets for dinner? He asked. You know what? I said, squeezing his hand. Yeah, dino nuggets it is. Extra ketchup. That night, after he went to bed, I pulled out a notebook. Not my phone, not my laptop. Paper, pen, old school, and I started writing down everything. Not for anyone else. For me, I wrote about the time my dad forgot to pick me up from a middle school dance because he was watching Tyler's playoff game, and I stood in the dark parking lot in my little dress until a teacher finally drove me home. I wrote about how, when I got pregnant with Lucas, my mom had said, "We're disappointed, but we'll support you," and then didn't show up to a single prenatal appointment. I wrote about the loan for my car repairs that I paid back penny by penny while my dad bought Tyler a motorcycle for his 25th. I wrote about every birthday they'd missed. Every "you're too sensitive" when I tried to speak up. Every "we did our best" when I pointed out the double standards. And as I wrote, something shifted. The fog of, maybe it's me, maybe I'm exaggerating, started to thin. My therapist had said once, abuse and favoritism are easier to see in a list than in a feeling. She was right. Over the next few days, the backlash started. Not from my dad, he was blocked, but from the rest of them finding ways around it. Unknown number. How dare you talk to dad like that? He's devastated. Tyler. New email from an address I didn't recognize. Sweetheart, please call. Your father is just worried. He didn't mean any harm. You know how he is. Mom. Facebook DM from Bethany's friend. IDK, what's going on with your fam, but your sis is like crying every day. Maybe just go easy on them? Instead, I did something very un-Marissa of me. I made an appointment with a lawyer. Her name was Vanessa. Mid-40s, sharp suit, warm eyes. Her office had a play corner with blocks and a few kids' books, which told me a lot about her client base. What can I help you with? She asked, once we'd settled in. I half expected my father to magically burst through the door and scold me for wasting some professional's time. I think I might need some kind of legal boundary, I said. I don't know if that's a restraining order or what. I need them to stop trying to hurt me. She leaned forward. Tell me what's been happening. So I did. I told her about the pattern, the birthday, the wedding money demand, the HR call, the texts, the guilt trips, how my dad used money and family duty as a leash, how I was trying to step back and he was yanking harder. She took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Has he shown up at your home uninvited? Any threats? Has he ever hit you or Lucas? He's not the hit you type. He's more the make you feel like you're insane and ungrateful type. Emotional abuse, she said, matter-of-factly. Hearing the words out loud made my chest tighten and loosen. At the same time, as for the HR call, she added, that's potentially defamation. It's tricky because of the I was just concerned angle, but the fact that your employer documented it as unfounded helps. At minimum, we can send a cease and desist letter. Sometimes that's enough to scare people straight. I pictured my dad opening that letter, the vein in his forehead throbbing. I don't know if I'm ready for that, I admitted. It feels big, final. Setting boundaries with abusive family always feels bigger than it is, Vanessa said gently. But you don't have to decide today. You came here. That's already a huge step. On the drive home, Lucas dozed in the back seat, his head lolling to the side. The late afternoon sun painted everything gold. I glanced at him in the mirror and thought, he deserves a mom who isn't constantly anxious about a text. He deserves peace. So I started small. In my own way, I deleted the family group chat from my phone. I unfollowed my parents and siblings on social media so I wouldn't see their posts pop up uninvited. I told my sitter, if my parents ever show up here without me explicitly telling you they're coming, do not hand Lucas over. Call me. If you can't reach me and they won't leave, call the police. Whoa, she'd said, wide-eyed. Okay, yeah, got it. At work, I told my manager, if anyone calls asking about my employment status, please don't confirm anything unless it's legally required. And if someone shows up, saying they're my family and want to talk to me, please tell them I'm not available. She squeezed my hand. Absolutely. For about a week, things were quiet, eerily quiet. The kind of quiet where you know there's a storm brewing. You just don't know when it's going to hit. The next explosion didn't start with a call. It started with an invitation. A very pretty, very fancy invitation. It arrived in my mailbox in a cream envelope with gold lettering. The return address was my parents' house. I sat at my kitchen table, the hum of the fridge in the background. Lucas singing some nonsense song to his Legos in the living room. And I opened it. You are cordially invited to celebrate Gary and Elaine's 40th wedding anniversary and vow renewal ceremony, Saturday, June 10th, 5 p.m. St. Michael's Community Hall. Dinner and dancing to follow. RSVP by May 1st. Marissa, I hope you and Lucas will come. It would mean so much to us. Mom. No mention of the HR call. No, we're sorry. Just proceed as if nothing happened and come celebrate the two people who taught you everything about love. I put the invitation on the counter and just stared at it for a while. Later that night, after Lucas was asleep, I sent my mom an email. I decided emails were best for this. No tone to misread. No real-time arguing. Just words. Subject: the anniversary party. Hi, Mom. I got the invitation today. I'm glad you and Dad are celebrating 40 years. That's a big deal. Right now, though, I'm not in a place where I can attend. Dad called my employer and made false accusations about me that could have cost me my job. I haven't heard any acknowledgement or apology from him about that. Until that happens, and until I feel confident that my boundaries will be respected, I don't feel comfortable putting myself or Lucas into a big family setting where it will be swept under the rug. Again, I hope, genuinely, that the party is everything you want it to be. Marissa? Her response came the next day. Subject: the anniversary party. Honey, I think you're blowing this whole thing out of proportion. Your father was just worried. He didn't make false accusations. He shared his concerns as any grandparent would. If you'd just been more understanding about the wedding money, none of this would have escalated like it has. We would really like to move past this and have you with us on our special day. Life is too short to hold grudges. Please reconsider. Love, Mom. That twist. If you'd just behaved, he wouldn't have had to hurt you. I didn't write back. But the wheels in my head, they started turning. Because here's the thing about my dad. Yes, he likes control. Yes, he likes money. But above all, he likes looking like the good guy. He's on the worship committee at church. He volunteers at the community center. He's always the first to sign up to run the raffle at the neighborhood block party. People in their circle say things like, Gary is such a devoted family man. He'd do anything for his kids. I used to swallow that like broken glass. That anniversary party? That wasn't just a party. That was his Oscars, his big, glittering showcase of, look what a great husband and father I am. And for the first time, I realized I have receipts. Actual, literal receipts. Screenshots of texts. HR documentation. My notebook full of dates and events. For years, he'd made sure all the ugliness happened behind closed doors. If I tried to talk about it, it was always, don't air family business. It's disrespectful. But he'd crossed that line when he dragged a third party, my employer, into it. He'd taken our family business and tried to weaponize strangers against me. And if he could do that, then I could too. Not by lying, not by exaggerating, just by opening the curtains and letting the light in. I told Destiny my half-formed idea over coffee one Saturday while Lucas was playing with her dog in the living room. You're gonna do what exactly? She asked, eyes wide but with that glint she gets when she's kind of impressed. I haven't figured out the details, I admitted, but I keep thinking about how everyone is going to be at that anniversary thing. The church people, the extended family, all the ones who tell me, be nicer to your parents. They love you. They don't know. And you want them to know? I kind of do, I said. Is that petty? Destiny shrugged. Honestly? No. Petty is hiding the remote. This is self-defense with a side of justice. We brainstormed for a while. Confront them during a toast? Too confrontational, and I didn't want to ruin my mom's night like that, no matter how complicit she was. Show up with a sign? Hilarious in my head. Deeply not my style. What about an email? Destiny suggested. Something you send to everyone right before the party starts. Like a statement. People in their seats, plates in front of them, phones buzzing. My dad on stage with a microphone, about to talk about 40 years of love and sacrifice. And then, ping, ping. People reading, murmurs spreading. Was that mean? Maybe. Did I care? Also maybe, but I don't have everyone's emails, I protested. Destiny grinned. But your mom does. She probably BCC'd half the city with that evite she sent me. My mom had forwarded Destiny the official electronic invitation too, because of course, she wanted my best friend there to help persuade me. That email had a big old View Guest List button at the bottom. It took all of 5 minutes for Destiny to pull it up on her phone and scroll. Look, she said, turning the screen to me. The Melanskys, the church ladies, your Aunt Linda, Pastor Mark, the whole show. I took a deep breath. Okay, then that's what I'll do. Over the next couple of weeks, whenever I had a quiet moment, Lucas watching cartoons, a no-show patient at work, I drafted. I didn't rant. I didn't swear. I wrote it like a report. Cold. Factual. Date. Event. Impact. I opened with Lucas's 5th birthday. How they'd said they'd come, how they hadn't, how my son had asked if he'd done something wrong. I wrote about the $6,000 demand, the family supports family speech. I wrote about the phone call to my job. I described the exact allegations, the Lucas's grandfather line, the HR meeting, the outcome. I attached, with Dr. Patel's permission, a redacted copy of the HR memo clearing me. I explained that I had blocked contact, not out of spite, but for my own and my child's safety, emotional and otherwise. And then I put in screenshots. I blurred out any truly personal details, because I'm not a monster, but I left the key lines visible. Dad, you're making a mistake. Dad, after I confronted him about the HR call, I don't owe you an apology for trying to protect my grandson. Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion. Tyler, stop making everything about you. Just pay your share. I ended with this. I understand that many of you see my parents as kind, generous, and loving. Your experiences are valid. Mine, however, are different. You don't have to choose sides. You don't have to respond at all. I am not asking anyone to cancel them. I am simply explaining why Lucas and I will not be attending the anniversary party and why I am choosing distance at this time. If you have ever been made to feel crazy or ungrateful for setting a boundary with family, please know you are not alone. Sincerely, Marissa. I reread it about 20 times, tweaked sentences, took out a bit that felt too raw, put it back in, took it out again. When I was finally done, I loaded all the addresses from the Evite. I added a few more from my own contacts, my aunt who'd always been kind to me, my cousin who'd messaged me once saying, if you ever need an outside ear. And then I scheduled it. Saturday, June 10th, 5:15 p.m. Party starts at 5. Give them time to sit down, get comfortable. As that day approached, my anxiety ramped up. Not enough to make me reconsider, but enough that I woke up in the middle of the night with my heart pounding, imagining every possible reaction. They'll hate you. Everyone will think you're dramatic. What if it backfires? What if no one cares? You know those thoughts? Yeah. The morning of the party, Lucas bounded into my bed at 7 a.m. like it was any other Saturday. Mama, can we go to the splash pad today? You know what? That sounds perfect. We spent the morning in the sun, water spraying, other kids shrieking. He wore his little blue swim trunks with sharks on them. I wore sunglasses and tried not to obsessively check my phone. At 4:45 p.m., I put my phone face down on the dash as I drove us to our favorite little burger place. At 5:10, while we were waiting in line, I watched the time tick over and imagined my email silently leaving the outbox. Want to sit in the booth? Lucas asked. Booth it is, I said. At 5:18, as Lucas was coloring on his kid's menu, my phone started buzzing. Not dinging, not a single ping. Buzzing. Constantly. I flipped it over. 23 new emails, 4 unread texts, 2 voicemails. My hands shook slightly as I started reading. From Aunt Linda. Oh, honey, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Call me when you're ready. Love you. From my cousin Michelle, Marissa. That was so brave. I've also had issues with them. Can we talk sometime? From one of the church ladies, Mrs. Carter, who used to pinch my cheeks as a kid. Dear Marissa, thank you for sharing your heart. I'm heartbroken to hear this. Please know I'm praying for you and Lucas. And then, the other kind. From my mom, I cannot believe you would humiliate us like this. On our anniversary, no less. You've twisted everything. Your father is devastated and furious. I hope you're happy. From a number I didn't recognize, but clearly Bethany's friend. Wow. Airing your dirty laundry much. So disrespectful. Your poor parents. From Tyler, you're unbelievable. You finally got what you wanted. Attention. Don't ever contact me again. Like I'd been begging for his attention all these years. I opened one more. From Pastor Mark, of all people. Marissa, I received your email along with many others. I am very sorry for the pain you have experienced. While I cannot take sides in family conflicts, I would like you to know that your well-being and Lucas's well-being matter to this community. If you would ever like to meet, to pray, or to talk to a counselor, please reach out. In Christ, Pastor Mark. I put my phone down and looked at Lucas, who was now carefully dunking a fry into ketchup with intense concentration. Mama, do you think the shark on my shorts is friends with the sharks in the ocean? He asked. I think he's the coolest shark of them all, I said. Back at St. Michael's Community Hall, I could only imagine the scene. People whispering, phones out, scrolling. My dad's face going from tan to beet red. My mom's dramatic gasps. Tyler bristling. Bethany crying. Delicate mascara tears. I know this because, later that night, Destiny forwarded me a screenshot from someone she knew who'd been there. A blurry photo of my dad at the podium, looking small, tight. My mom sitting beside him, eyes puffy. Apparently, they went ahead with the vow renewals, but a lot of people left early. The dinner that was supposed to go until 10 was done by 8. 2 weeks later, my aunt called. Your father stepped down from the worship committee, she said. Said he needed a break. But people were talking about the HR call. Good, I said before I could stop myself. Some of us are proud of you, you know, she added. Our parents did a number on us, too. Just different flavors. Was it perfect? Did the clouds part and everyone suddenly see what I'd been living with? No. Some relatives doubled down. I heard through the grapevine that my mom called me mentally unstable and ungrateful to anyone who'd listen. That Bethany posted some cryptic, "Some people love to play the victim" story on Instagram. But the important part was this: the story was no longer just his. He didn't get to control the narrative anymore. A few days after the party, there was a knock on my apartment door. That particular three-tap pattern my dad always used. My stomach clenched. I checked the peephole. Sure enough, Gary, with my mom, standing in the hallway like they owned the place. I took a breath, cracked the door just enough to be heard, chain still on. My mom's eyes were red. "Marissa, how could you?" "You called my job and tried to get me fired," I said, keeping my voice level. "You refused to apologize. You ignored every quieter boundary I tried to set." So I told the truth. My dad's jaw was clenched so hard I could see the muscle twitching. "You embarrassed us in front of our entire community," he hissed. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I protected myself. "I warned you this would be harassment if you kept coming." "You're still our daughter," my mom said. Like that was some kind of spell that could undo everything. "I'm Lucas's mom first," I replied. "And he's not your pawn. From now on, any contact goes through writing. No more pop-ins. No more calls to my work. If you can't respect that, we'll make this legal." "You wouldn't dare." "You know what's funny? 6 months earlier, he'd have been right. Now, I just said, 'Try me,' and closed the door." I did end up going back to Vanessa. We didn't do a full restraining order. There wasn't physical danger. And honestly, I didn't have the energy for a drawn-out court thing. But we did file a formal cease and desist for harassment, referencing the HR call, the showing up at my apartment, the emails. She sent it certified mail. I pictured my dad signing for it, reading the bolded legal language. Further attempts to contact Marissa at her place of employment, residence, or through third parties will be considered harassment and may result in legal action. After that, silence. Glorious, terrifying, uncomfortable silence. The first few weeks of no contact were weird. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone when something funny happened with Lucas. To send a picture. To send one of those, "Look at your grandson in his little rain boots" texts I'd been sending into a void of half-hearted emojis for years. I cried a lot. It felt like a death, because in a way, it was. The death of the fantasy that one day, if I just did enough, they'd wake up and say, "We're sorry. We see it now." Instead, I had me, Lucas, Destiny, a couple of co-workers who'd become actual friends, my aunt, occasionally. And here's the thing, no one really tells you about going no contact. After the grief, there's space. Space to hear your own thoughts without that constant internalized critic mimicking your dad's voice. Space to realize I can decide traditions for my little family. I don't have to do what we always did just because we always did it. Space to imagine a life where family dinners aren't stomach-clenching events. About 3 months later, I was in the break room at work when my manager walked in. "Just so you know," she said, "that same number called again last week and tried to ask if you still work here." My chest tightened. "And?" I asked. "And, per your request, we said we can't confirm or deny employment information. If you have a concern, please put it in writing." And then we hung up. I exhaled. "Thank you." She nodded. "Also, HR officially flagged that number. If they keep it up, we'll label it harassment and block it. You're a valuable employee, Marissa. We've got your back. That meant more than any "I'm proud of you" my dad had ever grudgingly muttered. At home, life slowly settled into a new normal. Lucas started kindergarten. I cried behind my sunglasses when I dropped him off, like every other mom in the parking lot pretending not to cry. He made friends. He brought home art projects. He lost his first baby tooth on the damn monkey bars. We taped it to a post-it so the tooth fairy wouldn't lose it under his pillow. One afternoon, as we were walking home from school, he slipped his little hand into mine. "Mama?" he said. "Yeah, buddy. How come we don't see Grandpa and Grandma anymore?" I'd known this question was coming. I'd rehearsed a dozen answers. None of them felt right until I was right there in that moment. "Do you remember when your friend at school kept knocking down your block towers, even when you asked him to stop?" I asked. He thought. "Yeah, you told me I could move to another table." "Right," I said. Sometimes, even when people are family, they keep doing things that hurt us, even when we ask them to stop. And when that happens, we can choose to move our table farther away. Not because we don't love them, but because we love ourselves and we love each other. He frowned a little, then nodded, satisfied. "So we're sitting at another table now?" "Yeah," I said, throat tight. "We are." "Can Destiny sit at our table?" he asked. I laughed. "I think she already does." Almost a year after the big email, I heard from Tyler. Well, about Tyler. Destiny ran into him at Target of all places. She texted me immediately. "Just saw your brother. He looks rough. Like bags under eyes rough." Apparently, he'd nodded awkwardly and said, "Hey, tell Marissa I hope she's good," then walked away. A part of me wanted to analyze that for hours. Was he softening? Did that mean something? Another part of me just didn't have the energy. If he ever wants to have a real conversation, no gaslighting, no "you're overreacting," I'll listen. But I'm not chasing that anymore. The real revenge, honestly, wasn't the email. It wasn't the whispered church drama. It wasn't my dad stepping down from his little committees. The real revenge was me building a life where they are irrelevant, where my son's joy isn't dependent on whether they show up, where my sense of worth isn't tied to whether my dad approves of my choices, where I can spend a Saturday morning in pajamas making pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and not be bracing for my phone to buzz with some guilt trip. Last month, Lucas turned 6. We had his party at the park this time. Nothing fancy. A Costco sheet cake with blue frosting that turned everyone's lips Smurf-colored. A rented bubble machine I got on Facebook Marketplace for $20. 3 of his little school friends, Miss Katie, who is now basically family, Destiny and her boyfriend, and a couple of my coworkers who brought their kids. The sun was out. The grass was still a little damp from the night before. Lucas ran around with a balloon sword, shrieking with laughter. At one point, he stopped, looked around at everyone, and shouted, "This is the best birthday ever!" I glanced at the park entrance, purely out of old habit. Empty. No one missing. No one to wait for. And for the first time, that didn't feel sad. It felt clean. After everyone left, and we were packing up, Destiny bumped her shoulder into mine. "Hey," she said, nodding toward Lucas chasing bubbles. "You did that. You broke the cycle." "I just told the truth," I said. "Yeah," she replied, out loud. That's the hard part. We loaded the leftover cake and soggy paper plates into her car. Lucas held my hand as we walked to mine. Mama? He said. Yeah? Can we have another party tomorrow? I laughed. Buddy, my wallet just fainted. But we can absolutely blow up some balloons and have cake for breakfast. Yes, he said, fist pumping. As I buckled him into his booster seat, he reached out and put his little hand on my cheek. You're the best, Mama, he said. My eyes stung. Thanks, bub. Driving home, windows cracked, his off-key singing floating from the back seat, I realized something. My revenge hadn't ruined me. It had freed me. It hadn't made me into some bitter, vengeful witch. Like my dad always muttered, those women become when they turn on their family. It had made me softer, actually with myself and with Lucas, because I wasn't constantly braced for impact. If you're still listening to this, and something in your chest has been tight the whole time because you recognize pieces of your own story, I want to say this as clearly as I can. You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not too sensitive. Wanting your parents to show up for your kids is not asking for too much. Saying no to being used is not a crime. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't screaming or slamming doors or plotting some elaborate takedown. Sometimes, it's writing an email, telling the truth, moving your table. Sometimes, it's just choosing your child and yourself over the people who had every chance to love you and chose control instead. If my story hit home for you, if you saw yourself in any part of it, I'd really love for you to stick around. This channel, Revenge Diary, is basically our little table, our place to tell the stories we were told to keep quiet. So if you want more of that, more real, messy, honest stories, go ahead and hit subscribe and click the little bell so you don't miss the next one. And if you know someone who's stuck in that fog, thinking, maybe it's just me, share this video with them. Sometimes hearing another woman say, no, it's not just you, is the first crack in the wall. Thanks for sitting with me through all of this. Really, I don't take it lightly. I hope wherever you are, you're choosing yourself a little bit today. You deserve that much.